There's little doubt that the pandemic is profoundly affecting everyday lives around the world, including those of younger people. Up to 10 million girls will be at risk of becoming child brides as a result of the pandemic. That's according to a new UNICEF study. Physical and mental health, families' economic circumstances and education levels can all increase the likelihood of child marriages. A UN development programme is committed to end these by 2030. Let's find out more. We can head to Nairobi now in Kenya to speak to James Elder, a spokesperson for UNICEF. Thank you very much for your time. Look, what is it about the pandemic, the lockdowns, the economic hardship associated with it, which means more children are going to be forced into marriages?
Exactly, Rosie. What a mess. I mean, it is the economic front. In a lot of developing countries, that economic downturn means additional stress on families. There's always hidden costs, hidden school fees, uniforms, or simply pressure for families, as they think, to get rid, if you will, of a girl. Now, that doesn't make sense in any principled or practice economic sense, but that's one reason. The other is this global closure of schools. We haven't seen that pretty much since World War II, and UNICEF, almost a year, has been saying, make sure your schools are the last thing to close, because we have evidence. We know from Ebola a few years ago, you close schools, the most vulnerable kids, and the most vulnerable are often poor girls, don't come back. We saw it in Ebola. We're learning it again now. It's so critical. Keep your schools open almost no matter what. And the virus has kind of spoken to that. So those two major elements, and then, of course, social services. There's a lot of social services that we can get to girls, but in a lot of lockdowns and so on, those weren't considered critical workers. So girls, again, lost access to those kind of people.
What kind of strategies work and how can you implement them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the thing is, things do work, and we've seen this. We've seen in about the last, as much as these figures are horrible, Rosie, 10 million girls in the next 10 years and all these big numbers. But, every time I'm out and about in Nairobi or Kenya or anywhere, you do see these girls. You see not 10 million, but you see the face. You see that girl who goes to school and who gets an education. So education is key. There is literally not a better investment in development in terms of a community, in terms of a society, than getting a girl in school. That has a very real fiscal element. So it's right in practice and it's right in principle. So keeping kids in school is fundamental. Cash transfers, there's been a big discussion over the last years. Cash transfers work. We see them in rich countries. In poor countries, they have an even bigger impact. Get cash. And here I talk about big donors like the European Union, who are so very generous on this front. All those governments in Europe, get cash into the hands of the poorest people. Girls stay in school. For every year a girl is in school longer, they learn, they're less at risk of child marriage, and they're much more likely to be a big fiscal contributor to their community.
Thank you very much for your perspective and time. James Elder, spokesperson for UNICEF, speaking to us there from Nairobi in Kenya.